Hey everyone, and welcome. I'm Joe Nabratsky, your leadership coach. And here at the Daily Art of Leading, it's where leaders go to learn. We focus on three different things. First, we help you to lead people at work, to become the boss people want to work for. Second, we help you lead those that you love at home and in your personal life, to be the type of partner or parent your family wants to be with. And third, we help you to lead yourself to the results that you want. We do that with a free podcast. We also have some online and in-person courses. But today I want to walk you through the foundation of everything that we do here. It's called the Bear Model. About 2 decades ago, I spent a few years in the heart of the Amazon jungle of Brazil. And I became fascinated at learning why people do what they do. Here I would see somebody with the exact same situation, the exact same circumstance, and yet they had completely different outcomes, both in the results that they had, in the feelings that they felt, and the actions that they took. And I wanted to understand why. Why is it that us as humans do what we do? And so I went on a quest to start learning that. I later went on to start a new company. And when it was just me at the very beginning, it was me and 3 silent investors. Now, starting a new company is no joke. It's a lot of hard work. But what I found is over time, I started learning and we started having success to the point where the investors came back and said, okay, Joe, let's grow. And so I started hiring people, but there was a huge difference. But I was no longer responsible for the results. I was responsible for the people who were responsible for the results. And that required a completely different mindset and skill set on leadership that I hadn't yet fully developed. So combining that initial desire to learn why do people do what they do, I then became passionate on a quest to learn about leadership. I went back and got my MBA, Master's of Business Administration, where I was able to focus on leadership. And then I wanted to put it into practice. So I joined a Fortune 100 company and rose as an HR leader to become an HR executive to apply these principles, helping leaders in the trenches, really dealing with these different issues. And along that time, I went back and got additional education, similar to like a master's degree in cognitive science, how the brain works, behavioral science, why we behave what we do, and combined all of that into one. The Bear Model is the result of 2 decades of learning around why do we do what we do and how to influence and change behavior. And it's really taken from the best minds around. And then I came across the work of Brooke Castillo, one of the most brilliant minds of our generation. And our models were so similar. The one difference was she took all the different concepts and elevated them to an entirely new level. Anything that you find valuable, I give credit to Brooke and to all the other different leaders that helped out. All right, so let's jump into it. The Bear Model is what we use to be able to solve any struggle, any problem that you have in your life, or to reach any result. And we help you to see your bear. Think of see as the word S-E-E, so that you're seeing your bear. And then you can see beliefs, emotions, actions, and results. It spells out bear. So let's go one by one. So it starts off with C for circumstance. So what is a circumstance? A circumstance is a neutral fact. It can be proven in the court of law. It's something that if somebody were to hear it or say it, it could be true for everyone. Now, the point of saying neutral is because there's no emotion attached to it. If you're adding any judgment, then you know it's no longer a circumstance. A circumstance can be other people, what they do, what they say, because a circumstance is everything outside of your control. So you take a circumstance, a situation, and then that could trigger you to then have thoughts about that situation that brings us to B for beliefs. Now, beliefs, there's a continuum. On the far left, you have a fleeting thought that might pop into your mind that you have a little bit of belief to it. And on the far right, you have a belief that is deep in your core. You've thought it so many times that it's become who you are. Beliefs are the stories we tell ourselves about what that circumstance means. And the thoughts we keep choosing to think form our beliefs. So you have a B for belief in your brain, and then that then causes you to feel an E for emotion. We like to keep emotions simple to one word. It's what do you feel? I feel happy. I feel sad. I feel humiliated. Whatever it might be, it's one word of how you feel. Now, in the English language, we sometimes incorrectly say what we're feeling, and really it's a thought. So we'll say, well, I feel like he shouldn't have done that. That's really just a thought that you're starting off with saying, I feel. So when we say feel, or when we say emotions, think of it as really what's going through your body. Let me explain it this way. Every time that you have a thought that you believe in your brain, your brain releases a chemical. Think of it as emotional fuel. And that emotional fuel then vibrates throughout your body. That's what a feeling is. Now, an emotion is different than a sensation. And I like how Jody Moore explains it. An emotion starts in your brain and then it travels throughout your body. It's those different vibrations. Sensation, on the other hand, starts in your body and then travels to your brain. So, for example, the sensation of, let's say you scrape your knee and it hurts. You scrape your knee and your body says, hey, Joe, you're in pain. This hurts. It's trying to alert your brain to do something. Or the sensation of feeling cold. Your body feels cold. And so it then sends a signal to your brain to say, hey, alert, do something. You're cold right now. Emotion's very different. Emotion, once again, starts in your brain with the thought that you choose to believe, and then it releases that emotion chemical that then flows throughout your body. Now, y'all, I've worked in the corporate world for over a decade, and I know talking about feelings is very taboo, but think about it. The only reason why you do or don't do anything that you ever do is because of the way you hope or you think it will make you feel. And yet, as a civilization, we're not very good at understanding what we're even feeling. When you're feeling mad, the actions you take are completely different than when you're feeling happy or focused. So understanding how to feel is going to be a big part of what we do. It's also a huge part of your well-being. Well-being on how you feel emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, you name it. So that emotional fuel then triggers vibrations in your body, and based off of how you feel, you then take action or you don't take action. So that's A for action. It's what you do or what you don't do. It's that simple. It's the behaviors that you take. All of your action or inaction or reaction is caused by the emotions that you feel. And then the combination of all those different actions leads you to the results that you get in your life. You either get or you don't get what you want in your life. Now, the interesting thing about the bear model is all of those results then tie back and prove out the belief. It's a direct loop to whatever you were believing. And when we talk about results, think of it as the results that you individually get. So we don't include the results of other people in the bear model. It's your individual results, what you can solely control. So you have a circumstance, and circumstances is anything outside of your control. It's the neutral facts. Then you have a belief. It's the story that you tell yourself about what that circumstance means. When you have a belief, it then releases that emotional fuel that flows throughout your body to have you feel the way that you feel. And feeling the way that you feel then helps you take or not take different actions. And the combination of all those actions, that's what gets you your results. Your results are perfectly aligned to the beliefs, emotions, and actions that led to them. That is the bear model. Now, I know that sounds simple, but we're going to go through several examples so that you can see how does this bear model help you to solve any struggle or reach any result. I want to talk about Ignaz Semmelweis. It's a good name. So Ignaz Semmelweis was a European obstetrician in around the 1800s. So he helped deliver babies. He was part of the Vienna Hospital, which is a big research hospital back in the day. And what he found is the women that came into his hospital, they had a mortality rate of 1 in 10. So 1 out of every 10 women that gave birth passed away. It got to the point where women, when they would go to the hospital, were so afraid of catching this childbirth disease that they would actually give birth outside in the street and then after birth go into the hospital. Because about a half of everyone that contracted this childbed fever soon would pass away. Now, Ignaz wanted to help people. He wanted to deliver babies. He wanted to save lives. And so he became passionate about finding out, why is this happening? So he started conducting experiments where he would test and say, okay, I'm going to keep the laundry the exact same way for everyone, or I'm going to have the diet be the exact same way so that he could see if there's any differences of what was causing this problem. Well, there came a time where Ignaz actually was outside of the hospital. He had to travel, and so he was gone for several months. Now, during that time, the mortality rate completely improved. So think about it. If you're Ignaz, you come back and you think, hold up, what's going on? I leave and it actually got better. And so he started doing more research of what's the difference between me and all the other different doctors. Now, remember I said that Vienna Hospital was a research hospital. What that means is they would work on cadavers or different people that had passed away to be able to learn. And Ignaz spent more of his time than any of the other doctors with the different cadavers. So he started coming up with a theory that maybe there's something on or in these cadavers that then is being transmitted to the healthy mothers that are giving birth. Now, this is way before germ theory or anything like that. In fact, when he first started coming up with this theory, all the other doctors shrugged it off, thinking there's no way. But he implemented something. He said, okay, I'm going to wash my hands. Perhaps if there is some type of thing that are on my hands that I'm transmitting, by cleaning my hands, maybe it won't transmit it. And it worked. The mortality rate went from 1 in 10 to 1 in 100, all by simply washing their hands. Now, the problem was these doctors were carrying a disease or a problem that they knew nothing about. And the problem was that they had germs on their own hands. The good news is because they understood the root cause of the problem, they can then find the solution, all within their own control. In a similar sense, there is a root cause problem in every single situation that you're going through. It's the root cause of why you suffer, and it's also the seed of any future result that you're going to get. What I found with so many leaders is we try to solve for the wrong problem. We try to solve for the symptoms versus the root cause. So you might be thinking, how does this apply to me as a leader? What we help you do is to not solve for the symptoms, but to solve for the root cause. And you're going to find that the root cause is always the thoughts you choose to believe in your brain. So instead of cleaning up your hands, we're going to help you to clean up your own mind, to bear up. It's what we talk about by becoming aware of the beliefs that aren't serving you, and then discover new beliefs that's going to bring about the results that you really want. It all starts with becoming aware. That's step one. So we're going to help you to see your bear. As a quick refresher, remember C stands for circumstance. That can trigger your B for beliefs, that cause E for emotions, that cause A for actions, that then cause your results. So it all starts with beliefs. So step one is to become aware. We're going to help you to eavesdrop on yourself by doing what we call a thought download. A thought download is basically emptying out whatever is going on in your brain. It's almost like you're being a bystander, and once you empty it out into your brain, you can then look at it. You can't use your brain to look at your brain. You have to get it out so that you can take a step back and then look at it. Then we're going to help you separate the beliefs, which are the thoughts that you're choosing to think, from the circumstances, which are the neutral facts. And third, we're going to compassionately ask questions to help you to see. Let me show you what I mean. So these are the type of questions that you ask yourself when you're seeing your bear. Now, at any given time, you have tons of different models that are working in your life to get you the exact results that you get today. But the way that we start to change our life, the way that we start to create a life that we intentionally want, is to work one model at a time. And so when we come and look at beliefs, we're going to have just a one sentence thought that gives meaning to that circumstance. And each model is going to be based off of just one belief. The type of questions that you ask yourself under the belief line is things like, is this thought serving you? Has that thought held you back or propelled you forward? What would likely continue if you keep thinking that thought? Remember, during the see your bear stage, we're just working on awareness. We're not trying to change anything yet. We're just putting it out on paper so that we compassionately look at it, observe ourselves. Well, that one sentence thought then triggers an emotion. We like to keep it very simple. One word. How do you feel? What's that vibration in your body? When you're thinking that thought, how does that make you feel? And then what does that feel like? What I mean by that is, what are the vibrations that are happening in your body? So when I feel angry, what's happening? Well, my heartbeat speeds up. I start breathing in quicker. But you're going to start paying attention to physically what's happening with the vibrations in your body. Anything beyond the vibrations in your body is more likely a belief or a thought you're choosing to think. Then you go into action. So feeling that way, what do you do or not do? What actions have you taken? What actions are you not taking? And then finally, result. What results do you want? What are the effects of those different actions? And are you getting the results that you want? And every single time, the results in your life are a direct loop to prove back your belief. All right, so let's do some examples to help you understand how does this really work. Let's say that somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey boss, I am so stressed." You heard that before? Or you yourself, when's the last time that you were stressed or overwhelmed? Let's walk through and let's see your bear. So let's imagine that I'm here one-on-one coaching you. This is what we do in our coaching practice. We walk through different bear models with people. And you came up to me and you said, "Joe, I am just so stressed." So I want you to think, where would you place stressed in the bear model? Is it a belief, emotion, action, or result? I would say it's an emotion. You feel stressed. So we write it as an emotion. And I would ask you to think about what are the vibrations going on in your body. And this is going to take you some time to really try to do. So I tap into your body and say, okay, what's going on? I'm feeling stressed. My throat feels a little bit tight. My chest feels like it's a little bit closed. My heartbeat is beating a little bit faster. And you get the point. You're going to tap into what does stressed actually feel like within your body. Now, doing this process does a few different things. One is it helps you to then become conscious. So many times we have an unconscious bear model where we're stressed, we don't even know why. Simply taking a moment to say, okay, what am I feeling? Changes your brain to start triggering the deliberate part of it. To then think, okay, what is going on intentionally? You're also going to have another side benefit where when you start understanding what it feels like, you're going to realize, hold up, it's just a vibration in my body. Feeling stressed, the whole heart rate, the different thing, I can do that. And you get to the point where you say, I can feel any emotion. Because even the ones that are really hard to feel, you still don't die just by feeling an emotion. The hard part about life is not necessarily the vibrations in our body. It's the thought that we choose to think that then make it more challenging, make it more hard. So we're going to help you clean up your mind. But the first step is just awareness. Okay, I'm feeling this. So I want you to ask yourself, what do you think is causing you to feel stressed? Now, I've asked many different people this, and almost every time the first thing that they'll say is, well, I've got so much on my plate, or my boss is driving me crazy, or my kids are, and they're going to explain all the different things that are going on in the external world of their circumstances. But I want you to look at the model. It's called bear for a reason. Belief comes before emotion because it causes emotion. Then emotion then causes action, which then causes results. So going back to my question, what causes stress? It's not all the stuff that you just told me right here. It's the thoughts that you're choosing to think in your brain. And then I would ask you, what thoughts are you thinking? This is why I want you to do those thought downloads where you just simply write out whatever's going on in your brain. You don't want to filter it. You don't want to think, oh, I shouldn't think that. The exact opposite. Get it out on paper. And you can even do this right now. Get out a piece of paper. If you're feeling stressed, think to yourself, what thoughts am I thinking that are causing me to feel stressed? And you're going to have many different things. Let's just take one. A common one that I hear is, I've got too much to do and not enough time. Have you ever thought that? I know I have. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I go and I get it done. I go work harder. No, you don't. That's balagna. You and I both know when you're feeling stressed and when you're thinking there's not enough time to do it all, you do the exact opposite of getting work done. Here's why. Our brain was designed to do three different things very well. First, it was designed to avoid pain. And when I say pain, it's not just physical pain, but it's also emotional discomfort. So when we don't feel good, our brain then does number two, seek pleasure. Seek what feels good. Now, this was helpful. This helped us survive as a species. But what's happening now is, without being intentional about it, anytime that we don't feel good, we're going to naturally want to seek pleasure. And the third thing is, our brain was designed to be as efficient and effective as possible. We have thousands upon thousands of thoughts that we think every single day. And your brain, in order to be able to help you survive, tries to think about what are the most important thoughts to bring up to your memory. I want you to think about the first time that you started driving. When you're in that car, you had so many different data points coming in, 10 and 2, check my rearview mirrors. Can I change lanes? Should I go faster? Should I put on the brakes? Should I put on the gas? You had all these different thoughts. Well, over time, after you kept practicing and doing it, your brain then started realizing, okay, these are the thoughts that you consistently think. So I'm going to tuck it into the back of your brain so that you don't have to think about it anymore, so that I can free up your capacity, your mind juice, to be able to focus on other different problems and solutions. Now, why is this a challenge? Is because all the different things that are required to get the results that you want in life, especially as a leader, require the exact opposite of those three different things. Instead of seeking to avoid pain, avoid emotional discomfort, we want to go after being uncomfortable. Why? Because that's where growth is. When you're feeling stressed, it feels uncomfortable. And so your brain's going to say, hey, Joe, don't do that. That doesn't feel good to do. Instead, it's going to seek pleasure. What does feel good? Searching on YouTube. Have you ever gotten to the point where you have a big assignment or a big project and you just don't want to do it? You feel overwhelmed or stressed. And all of a sudden you realize after 3 hours of being on YouTube, you went through this circle of different things. So you started off listening to America's Got Talent, and then you found out that, hold up, Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears and Ryan Gosling and Christina Aguilera were all in the Mickey Mouse Club. And so you researched if they had relationships. And then 5 hours later, you start finding out that, oh, what did I do for the last 5 hours? So we go after not feeling uncomfortable. So when you're feeling stressed, what do you actually do? You procrastinate, I procrastinate. We put it off. So what's the end result when you procrastinate? You don't get the work done. And you can see that that result proves out your initial belief that there's not enough time to get all the work done. So the next time you procrastinate, think to yourself, okay, what am I thinking that's causing me to feel whatever I'm feeling? So some of you are going to try to immediately say, okay, well, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to procrastinate. So I want to jump to changing my model. And I'm going to tell you, slow your roll. We're going to get there. We're going to help you change your models. But step one is just becoming aware. When you're in that moment of procrastinating, really think to yourself, what am I feeling that's causing me to procrastinate? And then go up more. What am I thinking that's causing me to then feel that way? And run a current state bear model. Now, the circumstance was just a neutral fact. It could be things like my work or anything else that you can put that has no judgment to it. So we've talked about what you don't do when you're feeling stressed. You don't get the work done. You procrastinate. But one of the most common things that I see when somebody's feeling stressed or overwhelmed is that they go after the emotional escapes. It's all of those different overs. Let me explain what I mean by emotional escape. When you're feeling stressed, your brain says, oh, this feeling doesn't feel good. I want to stop not feeling good. I want to seek pleasure. And so it's going to try to find what feels better to feel. Now, we all have our own go-tos. So for some people that like food, a lot of times the emotional escape that they choose is to go eat. And so instead of just eating the proper amount, they overeat. So the pleasure that they're seeking is that additional cookie, that brownie, that rib, whatever it might be, to be able to drown out the uncomfortable feeling that they're feeling. Or for some other people, it's over drinking. So one glass of wine at the end of the day to be able to calm down that stress turns into 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Others, it's overworking out, over social media eating. So sometimes you want to drown out that feeling that you're feeling. So for some people, after having a long day or feeling stressed out or overwhelmed, they'll jump on social media and they can 3 hours later realize that they just looked at Instagram and Facebook and all these different things. And so what we want to do is not just help you to change that action line, but to really go so much deeper into the root cause. It's not just about the symptom. It's about understanding the root cause, which is always a belief you're choosing to think in your brain. I mentioned earlier that we want to help not only you as you lead people at work, but also how you lead at the home. The reason for this is I mentioned I worked in a Fortune 100 company for over a decade. And what I found is I would start to coach and train leaders, and we would make incredible progress on becoming the boss people wanted to work for, leading their organizations. But then I would see their personal lives crumble. And I thought to myself, what if we could apply the bear model and all of the stuff that we're doing around leadership with how you lead in the home? I know for myself, I'll go through a long day at work and I could go crush it. And then I come home and it's like my mind juice is all used up. My patience is all used up. And I come in and I walk in the door and one small little thing triggers and all of a sudden I lose my cool. My temper blows up. And now I'm yelling at my kids. I'm showing up as the leader that my kids don't want to follow, that I wouldn't want to follow. So a common thing that I have from different leaders that we're helping is, how do I stop yelling at my kids? So before I can coach you to help you to stop yelling at your kids, let's first see your bear. Now you can start anywhere, but where would you put yell at kids in the bear model? It's an action. It's what you do or don't do. So yelling at your kids is an action that you're taking. So you could start there. So then I would ask, okay, when you're yelling at your kids, what are you feeling while you're doing it? I don't know what that is for you. And so if you want to, get out that piece of paper, do it live right now. Or the next time that you yell, as soon as you're willing, take a moment to say, okay, I just yelled at my kids. What was I feeling? Or it could be anger, frustration, disappointment. I don't know. Let's just say it's frustration. And then I would ask you, okay, when you're feeling frustrated, what's going through your body? Okay, well, my blood feels like it's about to boil. My fists clench up a little bit, whatever it might be. Then I'm going to ask, okay, what are you thinking that's causing you to feel that way? And this is where you do that thought download. Brittany, my wife, calls it brain vomit. You just get out whatever's going through your brain. So I just write it out. I'll take 5 minutes and I'll have all these different thoughts that I had out there. And then you choose one and you run a bear model on it. So write down what it is for you. But a common one that I see is things like, well, they should. I use a case from my own life. I came home and I had a chore chart that my children were supposed to do. And I looked at the house and it was a complete disaster. So my brain started spiraling and thinking thoughts like, they didn't clean up again. They didn't do their chores. So any of those thoughts, I want you to double click until you get down to the root cause thought. So a lot of times when I'm coaching somebody, I'll ask my favorite 2 words. So what? So my kids didn't do their chores. So what? Why does that bother me? And the reason why is because asking so what will get down to the real thought of what's causing that frustration. So for me, it was things like, they should have done what I asked, right? I'm their dad. I told them what to do. They should have done it. I had another bear that said things like, my kids don't respect me. All these different thoughts that I was thinking without even realizing it. Your brain was just unconsciously pulling up whatever past thoughts it's been always been thinking until you become aware of it. When I look at the circumstance, what's the neutral fact? It's just simply my kids. I have kids, my kids. I could be more specific, but I like to keep it just very neutral, my kids, because the focus is on the belief. Okay, so what's the result? The result is I don't do what I ask myself. Now, my goal was to stop yelling at my kids. So I'm showing up not as the dad that I want to. So I'm actually doing the exact opposite. And I'm doing the exact thing that's making me frustrated at my kids. And you can see that the results proves back the belief. I don't show up as I want. So here I am thinking that my kids didn't show up as I wanted them to, yet I was doing the exact same thing. And over time, we're going to help you to challenge every single belief that you have in your brain. It's real estate in that brain of yours, and your brain is the most powerful tool that you have. So you got to really be conscious and think, is that thought serving me? In this case, it's not. So I mentioned one of the first things that you're doing when you're seeing your bear is to separate the circumstances, which are the neutral facts, from the beliefs, which are the thoughts you choose to think. Now, I want you to look at this list right here and call out what are the ones that are facts, that are circumstances. So things like, my boss is difficult to work for. My employee is so hard to manage. I have an employee. I love my job. I hate my job. I am not enough. I am enough. I'll give you a second to go through this list and once again highlight which are the ones that are facts. Some of you are looking at the one on the right. It's hard to live with being bipolar or any other mental illness that you might have. What do you think? Is that a circumstance, a neutral fact, or is that a belief that you're choosing to think? All right, you ready for the answers? Highlighted in red are the only 4 that are circumstances or neutral facts. I have an employee, I have a mother-in-law, I have cancer, I weigh 200 pounds or 90 kilos for those in Europe. Now, some of you might be thinking, why does it matter? Let's go to the one with cancer. Whether I say to myself, I have cancer, or it's hard to live with cancer, why does it matter? It matters because everything outside of the circumstance is within your control. Now, some of you might be thinking, hold up, Joe, you're telling me that I'm causing the suffering that I'm feeling because I have bipolar or because I have cancer or because I hate my job or because of whatever different situation you tell me. I'm the root cause of the problem. I'm the Semmelweis that has the germs on my own hands. Yes, that is exactly what I'm telling you. And the reason why I'm excited to tell you this is because if you're the problem, or better said, if the thoughts that you're choosing to think and believe in your mind are the problem, then you are also the solution. That's some of the most empowering information you're going to ever hear, and it's true. You can control the stories you tell yourself about any circumstance in your life. So the question to ask yourself is, are those beliefs serving you? And if they're not, let's dissect them, let's understand them, let's become aware, and let's bear up level how you're thinking so that you can get the results in your life that you really want. I hate my job. Have you ever said that? If you haven't, have you had employees come up to you and say that? As an HR executive, it happens all the time. Now, they might not come into my office and say, Joe, I hate my job, but it'll come up as I'm thinking about leaving. I don't like my boss, whatever it might be, but I hate my job. In fact, I had something in my own life where I had a job that I absolutely loved. I woke up excited to go into work. I was doing great life-changing type of work. I loved it. And then I was talking to one of my friends that just got a new job. He switched companies and he went on to actually make 7 figures, so over $1 million a year. And I remember thinking, awesome, good for him. And at first I was excited for him. I really, truly was. But then the thoughts started creeping into my subconscious mind a little bit of, hold up, Joe, you don't currently make that amount. There's a problem here. So I went from loving my job to over time getting deeper and deeper, all the point to where I finally said, I hate my job. It didn't start off that way. It started off as I love my job. And then it was, man, I really wish I was paid more. Or another thought was, maybe they just don't value me enough because I'm not making the amount that I think I should be making here. And then my work isn't valued here. And then you can see how this is a slippery slope down to it. Now, some of you might be thinking, but no, hold up, Joe. If I say I hate my job, it's a fact. I really do hate my job. But that's where the beauty in this lies, is once you can separate the fact from the story you're telling yourself, it then puts you back into control. So I hate my job. Where would you place it in the bear model? Is it a circumstance, a neutral fact, a belief, an emotion, an action, or a result? It's a belief that you're choosing to think. I hate my job. Now, when you think to yourself, I hate my job, what emotion does that bring up? Be honest with yourself. Now, it could be frustrated, discontent, whatever it might be. Now, when I'm feeling that way, discontent, frustration, anger, what actions do I take or not take? realistically, I'm not going to go above and beyond. I'm not going to put my best foot forward. Feeling that way, I can't. The emotional fuel that's running throughout my body is not going to trigger the actions that would produce different results. They're going to produce the actions that would be there. So you don't show up the way that you would like. And the result is you then have a job where you're not producing, which gives you more evidence to say, this is a job that I don't like. I hate my job. Now, what would you call the circumstance here? Remember, it's something neutral, no judgment to it, so I'll just call it my job. All right, so up to this point, we've only talked about how do you see your bear, which is becoming aware of your current, usually unintentional model. Now, so many times when people try to then change it, they then focus on the action line. And the concern with that is when you try to change action, you'll usually pull on willpower. And willpower is only temporary. It's similar to those hourglass that only has a certain amount of sand. You only have a certain amount of willpower before it runs out, and then you're going to go back to whatever your other thing is. It's similar to holding a beach ball underwater. You can hold it down for a little bit, but eventually that beach ball is going to pop out. So instead of just focusing on the action, we want to get down to the root cause. So before we bear up, let me share one other thing. We don't want to just solve for the symptoms, but solve for the root cause. And the root cause is always the thoughts you choose to believe in your brain. Going back to the Ignaz Semmelweis example, instead of cleaning up your hands, we're going to help you to clean up your own mind, to bear up by becoming aware of the beliefs that aren't serving you and discover the new beliefs that's going to bring about the results that you want. All right, so the start of bearing up, after you become aware of your bear model and you fully allowed yourself to see your bear, to sit in that emotion, to understand the different thoughts that are going on, you can then start the process to try to bear up, which is to think deliberately new intentional thoughts. There's a few different ways that we help you do that. And it all starts at the root cause, which is your beliefs. There's 3 different types of beliefs that I focus on. Beliefs about yourself, beliefs about others, beliefs about what the past was, the current is, and the future can be. Now think about it. That's it. Anytime I'm trying to influence, and leadership is just intentional influence, I focus on these 3 different beliefs with that person. Beliefs about themselves, about others, about what the past was, current is, and future can be. And by being able to help them to change those beliefs or to think differently, it will then propel them to have different emotions, to then take different actions, to then get different results. So the next question is, how do I think new thoughts? How do I direct my brain in this belief line to be able to think differently? I'd say there's 2 main ways. The first way is you redirect your brain. Now, as I mentioned, I studied similar to a master's in additional cognitive science. So I'm not going to bore you with all the different terminology, but I will give you one term. It's called the reticular activating system, RAS. Remember, I mentioned earlier that our brain was designed to be efficient. So it's going to keep thinking the same thoughts it's always thought and put them in the back of our brain. Your reticular activating system is what tells your brain what to focus on. And it's only going to pull out the things that you want to focus on. I remember one time I was trying to buy a car. And if you were to ask me at the very beginning of the process, what are the different cars on the market? I probably couldn't tell you. Maybe 1 or 2. But then once I started getting in the market, I remember one of the cars that I wanted was a Honda Civic. It's practical. It's me. Honda made a Civic just for me. But then when I was on the road, it was almost like the only car that I would see was a Honda Civic. And the reason why is because I placed in my reticular activating system something that said, focus on Honda Civics. And then it would bring out and highlight, hey, Joe, there's a Honda Civic, there's a Honda Civic, there's a Honda Civic. That's why we spend a lot of time setting goals, dreaming of the different future results that you want, because it helps set aside that motion of the RAS to be able to work for you, to pull it out. Things aren't just happening to you, they're happening for you. And so you want to consciously, deliberately start pulling out what you want to focus on. So we're going to help you redirect your brain. So when I'm thinking of a new thought that I want to believe, I have to keep thinking it over and over and over again until the point that I actually believe it. And so I'll write it on my mirror. I'll put it in my pocket. I'll set a reminder on my phone. I'll put it as my screensaver on my phone. I'll have an alert pop up in my calendar. whatever you can do to be able to help your brain say, hey, focus on this, focus on this. That's how you direct your brain. The second other main way is we help you to believe new thoughts. And there's a few different strategies that we use for this. The most common two are to ask great questions. So let's say you're trying to change the thought of you hate doing the dishes. You can ask your brain, okay, how could I make doing the dishes more fun? And that simple question will then focus your brain on trying to find a solution. So instead of thinking to yourself, I hate doing the dishes, I hate doing the dishes, it's going to say, okay, how could I make this more fun? And it's going to start finding solutions on how to make it more fun. And eventually, you start believing it's more fun. The second different way is what's called laddering up your thoughts or bridging your thoughts to a new thought. Now, let's go back to this example of my job. I hate my job. Now, once you get to the point where you say, okay, I realize that's a thought that I'm thinking. Is that thought serving me? No. No, it's not. In fact, that's why I tell people, don't ever change jobs or bosses while you're feeling unhappy or discontent in that current job. Get to the point where you can bear up and you feel fine about that. And then if you still want to change your job, change it. Same thing for spouses or anything else. But until you can bear up and have a clean mind, don't take action based off of that. Now, as you're laddering up or bridging your thought, you could go to the extreme at first. So you could say, if I hate my job, the extreme would be, I love my job. Now, some of you are thinking, yeah, but I don't believe it. That's the point. In order for it to work, to be a belief, two things have to happen. One, you want it to feel good to think. And two, you have to believe it. Otherwise, it's not a belief. So if you don't believe it, that belief isn't going to help you. And so what we do is we ladder it up. I can't just go from I hate my job to I love my job. So you try to think, what are the different ways, like a ladder, that you could start here and then eventually go here and then go here. So for example, try on this one. I have a job. Simply saying I have a job feels different. I have a job feels different than I hate my job. Now, sometimes you're just going to bridge it to something more neutral. It's not going to immediately go to, I feel great, I love my job. No, but you want to bridge it to something that's believable. It's similar to somebody that's trying to lose weight. They wouldn't go from, I hate my body, to all of a sudden waking up one day and be like, wow, I love my body. No, they have to believe it. But what if you could switch it from, I hate my body, to simply, I have a body that's able to move? It then goes into a feeling that's a little bit more neutral. And then over time, you bridge up that feeling until you finally get to the point where whatever thought you're thinking gives you the feeling that you're wanting, whether it's committed, dedicated, whatever it might be, that then propels you to take the actions you want or not take the actions you don't to get the results that you actually want. So the person that's thinking to themselves, I have a job, versus the person that's thinking, I hate my job, do you think they would have different results on how they show up in their workplace? Yes. And the person that's waking up thinking, I love my job, even another higher level of results that they would get, because they're going to propel different actions. I want to give you another example that pulls all of this concept together into one. Now, as I mentioned, I'm an HR executive, and a lot of times I have people coming to me getting ready to put in their resignation. They're fed up with whatever's going on. And I had Sarah, a senior leader, who was one of our top talent, that was basically a huge retention risk. Now, for those that are in management or leadership, think to yourself, what's the number one reason why people leave organizations? Now, I've done all the research. I've read all the different articles. I also know what they say. They say the number one reason is the manager. But I'm going to walk you through this, and I want to challenge, because I'm telling you, the number one reason why people leave organizations is not the manager. It's not what you think. Let's go through Sarah's thought download. So we've talked a lot about doing a thought download. These were the things that Sarah, just when she was getting out whatever's going through her mind, these are the type of stuff that she either wrote on paper or that she was talking to me about. And I'll go ahead and quote it. My manager is making me so mad. He's one of the worst leaders I've ever had, and I can't work with him anymore. He's always saying what isn't working or what I did wrong and doesn't recognize all the good. He even said, Sarah, you're not good at your job. After such a great year, he gave me a block 5 rating. I didn't get near enough merit or bonus. My merit was 1%. I was expecting 2%. So I want you to look at this thought download and start thinking to yourself, what are the circumstances, those neutral facts outside of Sarah's control? And what are the beliefs, the thoughts that Sarah's choosing to think, the stories she's telling herself in her mind? For those of you not familiar with the 9-block rating, every company does it a little bit differently. For this company, they had a results axis and a behaviors axis. And there was 9 different blocks, either exceeds, meet, or below standards. So block 5 rating was basically saying you're in the middle, which is still meeting a very high bar, but she thought she was exceeding results and behaviors, not just meeting them. But where do you think? Where are the neutral facts? Here's one. My manager. Sarah had a manager. That is a neutral fact. But he's making me so mad. No matter how much she believes it's true, that's still a thought she's choosing to believe. He's one of the worst leaders I've ever had. Now, some of you might be thinking, no, but it's true. It's confirmed by everyone in the organization. He is the worst leader. Even if other people believe the same thing, it doesn't mean that it's a neutral fact. It just means that they are joining in on collectively believing that belief. In order for it to be a neutral fact, it has to be true for everyone in any situation and have no emotional or adjective attached to it. So calling it, he's the worst, or any type of judgment, you now know it's no longer a neutral fact, it's a belief. What about, he said, Sarah, you're not good at your job. Now, this one I would give it to her. This is a circumstance because it's the quote, word for word, what he said. Remember, circumstance can be what other people say or what other people do. So if you use the exact quotes, that works. That's a neutral fact that simply happened. It could be proven in a court of law that he said those different words. And then the last one was my merit, or basically the increase that she got in her compensation was 1%. Those are the only facts. Everything else is just drama. It's stories that Sarah's telling herself in her brain. And the power of this is knowing if it's not a circumstance, you take back control of deciding, is that serving me? And do I want to keep thinking that? You can't control your circumstances, but you can control the thoughts or the stories that you choose to believe. And people, thoughts or beliefs are optional. Have you ever been told that before? Let's say you're struggling with cancer right now and you're thinking, I hate having cancer. Did you know that even that is a thought you're choosing to believe? Now, I'm not saying don't believe it. I'm not saying only believe thoughts that make you feel like fairies and butterflies all the time. No. In fact, a good portion of this life is not to feel these amazing feelings all the different time. There's a good portion of this life where you do have those negative emotions. So I'm not trying to say only believe thoughts that will make you feel happy. No, it's better than that. I'm saying sometimes you're going to sit in those feelings that don't feel good, like going after a goal. You would think that if I make a big goal or if I have a big dream, I'm going to feel so excited and wake up excited every single day. No. Remember, your brain wants to avoid things that make you feel uncomfortable. Growing, changing, putting yourself out there, that all feels uncomfortable. So your brain's going to naturally tell you, don't go there. I don't want to feel that. So you have to intentionally set yourself to be able to go after feeling uncomfortable, to put off that pleasure sometimes, to go through what's really needed to get the results that you really want. All right, so let's help Sarah to first see her bear and then to help her to bear up. Now, when you're running a model, you can start anywhere. After you get that thought download, you can either take just one of those one sentence thoughts and plug it into the belief, or you can take the emotion, or you can take the result, or you can take the action. You can start anywhere. But let's start with her feeling. So when Sarah came to me, she said, Joe, I'm just so frustrated. I'm so mad. So we could start there. So where would you place mad? Mad is an emotion. She's feeling mad. She's feeling frustrated. So then I would ask her, okay, Sarah, what is causing you to feel mad? Now, this is the part where she would tell me, it's my boss. My boss is driving me crazy. The boss said, you're not good at your job. Of course, that's going to make me feel mad. But I want you to think of it this way. If other people can control how you feel, then you're dependent upon them changing in order for you to feel better. You give up all of your power. The beautiful thing about the bear model is that other people and what they say and what they do are a neutral circumstance. You take back the power by deciding how you want to react to that. What do you think? Now that you know the model, where would you put the boss? So in this example, I would say the boss, what he said, it's a circumstance. The boss said, you're not good at your job. Now, I know some of you are looking at my handwriting and saying, that is beautiful. Will you teach me calligraphy? Yes. We'll do that another time. I'm working on it, my penmanship. But notice the difference here. Other people can't make you feel mad. They can't make you feel happy. So many times we think, oh, I will only be happy if my boss changes, if I get that six-pack or I lose 50 pounds, if I have more zeros in my bank account. And so happiness or whatever feeling that you're after is always a circumstance or a thing away. But y'all, I'm here to tell you, circumstances do not change or affect how you feel. They're neutral. Take back the power. The beliefs that you choose to think about yourself, about others, about what the past was, the current is, or the future can be, that is how you change how you feel. That is how you feel better. That is how you get the results that you really want. So going back to Sarah, I would ask her, okay, when your boss says that, what thoughts are you thinking? Remember her thought download? It had all the different things, but in the moment, I really wanted to think about, okay, he just barely said that. What am I thinking? And she said things like, I just feel like I'm not valued here. Notice once again, she says, I feel, but is that really an emotion? No. The only emotion is a one word vibration in your body. She was just covering it up with a thought. So her thought was, not valued here. So we could run a model on that one. Another thought that she had was, he thinks I'm not capable. Now, when she said he thinks I'm not capable, that's something that I want to double click or dive into a little bit deeper. And once again, I use the famous two words, so what? I know that sounds like I'm not being empathetic, but I'm doing the exact opposite. By asking so what, I'm doing the most beneficial to her because I'm helping her understand that root cause thought. So when I asked her, okay, why does it matter that he thinks you're not capable? What it really came down to was that Sarah herself had a deep belief that she's not capable, that she's not enough. And so when he was saying that, it triggered that own belief about herself that she had. Now, Brooke Castillo, as I mentioned, she's the main creator of the CTFAR model, which is similar, and in fact, what I pulled a lot from the bear model. But she had a great analogy. She calls it the blue hair. If let's say, I don't have blue hair. Let's say someone comes up to me and says, hey, Joe, I hate your blue hair. Would that bother me? No. Why? Because I simply don't have a belief that I have blue hair. So I look at them and be like, I don't have blue hair. It rolls off my shoulders. I don't even think about it. But if they had a comment that did hurt me, it wasn't their comment that was hurting me. It was because more than likely I have a belief within my own about whatever they said. Because if I didn't have blue hair, it wouldn't bother me. So if he says, Joe, you have blue hair, not an issue. But if he says, Joe, you're not capable, and that bothered me, it's probably because I have one of that beliefs about myself. So let's write it down. I'm not capable. I'm not enough. So when she's thinking that way, and instead of mad, even though she initially said mad, when she's thinking that thought, it was actually more of hurt, offended, insecure. So when she's feeling that way, hurt, offended, insecure, what does she do or not do? Now, I can tell you, she's not going to go out of her way to show up. She's not going to go out of her way to be her best. So when she repeatedly isn't showing up as her best at work, she's not taking the actions, maybe she gets the email from him and she delays it a little bit. There's going to be a whole lot of action and inaction that's going on here while she's feeling that way. So what's the result? Remember, the result should always prove back the belief. The other key thing about the result is it should be within the control of that individual. So anytime that you have a result that includes other people, hold up, back up. The result is always within the control of what you can do, relates to your belief. So the result here is she was initially upset that her boss wasn't valuing her, but what was she really doing? Sarah wasn't valuing herself. She shows up as incapable. So you can see that Sarah not showing up as capable and not valuing her own self proves back her own thought of saying, I'm not capable, I'm not enough. So you can see it wasn't the manager or the boss that was causing her to want to quit. It was her own thoughts regarding the boss. So I mentioned it earlier, the number one reason why people leave organizations is not what you think, it's what they think. Now, don't get me wrong. They could still have bad bosses, bad cultures, all of that stuff. And I'm not saying that we will still try to change and help that boss or help improve that culture. But what I am saying is by changing her own beliefs about that boss, about that culture, she takes back control for how she wants to feel. And then eventually she can decide, you know what? Yes, I know I can do the mind work and be okay, but this isn't a boss or a culture I want to work with anymore. Peace. Part ways at that time, but don't do it while you're feeling insecure, mad, and upset. All right, so knowing what you know now, how would you help Sarah to bear up? Now, so many leaders, when they're trying to help somebody else or even coach them or give feedback, they focus on the action line. They focus on, okay, Sarah's not showing up, so I'm going to go tell her this is not meeting my expectation, change this behavior, do this. Now, I'm not saying don't do that. But remember Ignaz Semmelweis, solve for the root cause and not for the symptoms. Her actions are just a symptom. The root cause are the different beliefs of I'm not capable, I'm not enough. So if I'm going to do real leadership, which is intentional influence, I'm going to help Sarah to bear up by helping her to think differently about those three beliefs. Beliefs about herself, beliefs about others, beliefs about what the past was, the current is, and the future can be. So when I'm looking at Sarah, I could start when I bear up at any of the different bear models. So I could say, okay, Sarah, what results do you want? And then we'd put them in the R line. Or I can say, okay, Sarah, how do you want to feel? The circumstance is the same. So notice I'm not even changing the circumstance in my bear models because I want to show that without changing the circumstance, you can have a completely different result just by starting by changing your beliefs. So Sarah, the next time your boss says you're not good at your job, how do you want to feel? What do you want to think? What actions do you want to take? What results do you want? And we'd fill in her bear model. And we'd help her to ladder up her thoughts. So similar to our example of I hate my job to I love my job, I can't just immediately say, okay, Sarah, just believe I am enough. I am valuable. Now, if she can do that, great. But in order for it to be a belief that works, two things. Remember, it has to feel good to think, and you have to actually believe it. So we might have to ladder up. So I would choose more empowering thoughts like, I control if I'm of value. Even just saying that, I control if I'm of value, gives her a different feeling. So he can say what he wants, but that doesn't mean she has to feel unvalued. She's going to have to work up that confidence. Another thought that I give Sarah as she's trying to ladder up or bridge her thoughts is to simply add on the phrase, I'm just thinking a thought. So for example, I'm just thinking a thought that I'm not capable. I'm just thinking a thought that I'm not enough. You notice that small difference? It helps her take back control to realize, okay, it's just a thought. So if it's just a thought, that means I could change it. Maybe you add, it's possible that I could be of value. You can see over time, we're going to do that. We'll have whole episodes and podcasts and coaching around how do you ladder up, but I'm trying to give you a general understanding of what is the bear model. Let's go back and do just a few more examples using the earlier see your bear examples that we did to be able to show you how do you bear up. So let's go back to the example of me yelling at my kids. Circumstance was my kids. Remember, it's neutral, no judgment attached to it. The belief was, well, hey, I gave them chores. they should have done what I said. The emotion was frustrated. The action was I yelled at them. And the result was I actually don't do what I said. So I said I wanted to not yell at him. I wanted to show up as a dad that's more deliberate. And yet I'm not doing it. So it proved out the belief. So how did I bear up? Now I have Brittany, my wife, who is a certified life coach through Brooke Castillo's a life coach school that helped to coach me initially. And it's taken several years to try to up level. And I still go through times where I fall into that rut of being unintentional. So this is a daily art of leading, daily art of coaching myself, daily art of using the bear model. So if this were your example, how would you bear up? Well, you could start anywhere in the model, but let's start with the action because you already know. You want to stop yelling at your kids. So if you want to stop yelling, think to yourself, the next time that happens, where you come home and you ask them to do their chores and they didn't do their chores, what emotion do you want to feel? Now, I'm not saying you want to feel great. This is excellent. They didn't do what I said. No. But what emotion would you want to feel? Let me ask it differently. What result do you actually want? The result that I want is I want to show up as a deliberate dad. All right, so the result that I want is I want to show up as that deliberate dad. I want to not yell. I want to take the different actions depending on whatever parenting style that you have. And I'm not here to tell you here's the one right way to do it. There's many different ways. But then I would ask you, okay, how do you want to feel? So for me, it might be things like calm, committed. So I don't want to be ruffled. I don't want to immediately have my temper go. So if I'm feeling calm and committed to whatever my parenting style is, I'll be able to take the actions of showing up the way that I want to. So here's the key. What beliefs do I need to think that will help me feel calm and committed in the moment? And this is where you brainstorm. And I'm going to give you many different thoughts to try on to be able to help get you there. But some of the thoughts that I enjoy are things like, nothing has gone wrong here. Really, think about it. I have 4 kids. The youngest is 4, the oldest is now 13. Do you think that they come home and they say, oh, of all the things that I want to do the dishes, I want to do my homework, this is going to be so exciting? No. And historically, that's not what they do. So for me to think that, yeah, they should want to clean up, it's ridiculous. So nothing has gone wrong here. They're kids being what kids want to do. Not just kids. Do I always do what I say I want to do? No. My brain notices that some of the stuff is uncomfortable. And so it wants to avoid pain, seek pleasure. My kids want to avoid doing the dishes and their chores and instead watch Netflix or YouTube. They want to seek pleasure. So nothing has gone wrong here. So simply saying that thought to myself relieves myself of the, oh, something's wrong. They don't respect me. They're not going to do what I said. They're going to grow up to be people that don't contribute to society. Whatever your thoughts are, nothing has gone wrong here. Another thought that I like to think to myself in this moment is, this is the part where they show up as kids and I show up as the deliberate dad. Simple. This is the part where I show up as the deliberate dad. So I'll say it to myself. This is the part where I show up as the deliberate dad. And that helps me to feel calm. And then the actions that I take is my parenting style. Now, for me, that includes making sure that there's different consequences. So I'm not just going to simply say, oh, that's completely okay that you didn't do your chores. No problem. I'll go do them. No, there's going to be a consequence, but the way that I implement that consequence totally changes it. So I'm able to calmly and have that conversation and show up as a deliberate dad in that discussion versus as an irate person that's simply yelling at my kids. And the result is I show up how I want. Until tomorrow, when I show up undeliberately and I do a bear model and then I have to see my bear and bear up again. But you get the picture. And I could do this model on anything that you can imagine, from any struggle that you want to solve or result that you want to reach. Let me give you one last example because most of them so far have been on the different struggles. What about if it's a goal that you want to reach? So as we mentioned, we help you not only lead people at work, lead people at your home, but also lead yourself to the results that you want. So let's say one of the results that you have is that you want to lose 50 pounds. So not only can you see your bear to understand your current struggle or problem, but you can also start with the future intentional model under the result. So in this case, I'll write it as a future result. So you want to lose 50 pounds. That's the future result. Then we take a look and say, okay, what's the current state? What's currently happening? Now here's the reality. We all know what it takes to get in shape. Exercise more, eat less, drink more water, you name it, you know it. Then why are there so many people that don't do it? It's because so much of the media and different people trying to help focus on just the actions. You need to wake up early, you need to exercise, you need to drink water. All of that is only going to be short-term or temporary because it's relying on willpower. What we want to do is we don't want to solve for the symptoms. We want to solve for the root cause. So for this person that I was coaching, she had a specific situation. And what happened was she made a goal to be able to work out 4 times a week. She was going to wake up early and go work out. Well, day 1 happened. She didn't do it. She didn't wake up. Her alarm went off and she chose to stay in bed. So in that moment, that's when I want to help her to see her bear. So let's walk through it. What was the action or inaction? It was didn't wake up to work out. She didn't work out. She slept in. That was more of an inaction. Now, I'm still a fan of things like Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, where the concept of saying to yourself when there's something that you don't want to do, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then committing to go doing it. There's power in that because once again, it flips your brain to the conscious part of your brain that's being more deliberate. But even that sometimes can be short term. What I really want to do is I want to get down to that underlying belief. So then I would ask her, okay, when you were in that moment and you decided to not wake up, what were you thinking? Or what were you feeling? We can go either way. We can do the belief or we can do the emotion. And she said, you know what? If I'm being really honest with myself, I had a thought in my head that said, what good will it do? Even if I do it, it won't make a difference. Okay, so that was her thought. So while she's thinking to herself, hey, it won't make a difference, how does she feel? What emotion? What's that one word vibration in her body? And she said it was apathetic. I didn't care. So thinking that thought, of course she felt apathetic. Of course she didn't wake up when the alarm went off. And what's the result going to be? Remember, it has to prove out the initial belief. So what would you say her result is? I'd say no difference is made. And now the result proves out that belief. Now for the circumstance, we can keep it neutral. So it could be whatever you want. I'm going to put it as workout. So for her, the first step was just to become aware. As she's doing those thought downloads, to become compassionately an observer of what she's thinking and feeling and why. And it makes total sense. Now, so many times when you start doing this process of seeing your bears, you start to beat yourself up. I can't believe that I think that. It's ridiculous. Imagine if it was somebody else that you loved and cared about. How would you be compassionate towards that person and give yourself that own benefit? Because your brain is crazy smart. It's the most powerful tool in the universe. And so it's doing this, it makes perfect logic. Of course you're going to sleep in because that's what you were thinking. So instead of beating yourself up, let's say, okay, that's what the past was. What do I want the future to be? Remember her goal, lose 50 pounds. So then as she's starting to really understand these thoughts, and this is just one model, but I'm sure she has several other different models anytime that she chooses not to wake up early. But then it would say, okay, now let's be intentional. When that alarm goes off and you want to work out, what do you want to feel? What do you want to think? What do you want to do? You can start anywhere. So she said, okay, well, I want to actually get up and work out. Okay, so if she wants to get up and work out, so I'm going to ask her to be intentional. How do you want to feel? And she said, I want to feel committed, dedicated. Those are some of my favorite emotions. But you can actually select the different emotions you want to feel by deciding what thoughts you want to think in order to drive that emotion. So if she wants to feel dedicated, what does she have to think? And by the way, I love dedicated even more because dedicated beats motivation every single day. Because you're not always going to feel motivated to go do the hard things because your brain's trying to protect you from feeling uncomfortable. It doesn't feel comfortable to get up early and go work out. So you've got to override your brain's natural desire by thinking a thought that's bigger than the action. You need a why that's bigger than the how. So for her, some of her different thoughts that helped her were things like, I am willing to feel uncomfortable. That's an empowering thought. Hey, when I have a big goal, a big dream, I'm willing to feel all the feels because it's just a vibration in my body. Embarrassment, humiliation, I'm down. Let's do it. If that's what it takes to reach my dream, if that feeling is the currency to reach my goal, let's do it. Another thought that she had was, I create my future. We're going to have entire podcasts and courses on how do you change the past, rewrite the past, and create your future. But simply believing the future can be different is empowering. Another one that she chose was, I'm the type of person who works out every day. So when that alarm went off and she's able to say these different thoughts, she felt committed, which got her out of bed. You can still go back to Mel Robbins' 5-second rule if that helps too. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump on my feet. Let's do it. I'm going to start the day. So whatever thoughts they are for you that you can believe, that feel good to think, and that you can actually attach some form of belief, even if it's a ladder up, that's what I encourage you to do. So as she's thinking, I create my future, notice that that's a direct loop to where the result will be a future that's different. Now, the bear model works for any goal that you want to have. You just put it in the future results. I want to go from making 5 figures to 6 figures, 6 figures to 7 figures, 7 figures to 8 figures, all whatever it might be. I want to grow my bank account to XYZ. I want to get an 8-pack. I want to improve the relationship with my wife. I want to feel more love towards my wife, towards my kids. Whatever it is, you can do it through using the bear model because you're just a belief away from whatever dream that you want to reach. I heard Ed Milet give this analogy about 15 years ago, and I absolutely loved it. But it's the idea that we all have a personal thermostat of what we believe that our value is or what we're capable of achieving in our life. And you will never surpass that. So if you believe you're a 70-degree Fahrenheit type of person, if life starts getting great and you start getting higher than that, your belief will pull you back down and say, nope, hey, that's too much. You're a 70-degree, and you'll find ways, even subconsciously, to get back to where you believe you deserve. So we want to use the power of that reticular activating system of goals, of thinking new beliefs about who you are, what you can achieve, what the future can be, to be able to create a future that's different than the past, a future that's whatever result that you really want. My challenge to you is to start to see your bear and bear up. And the first step is to just commit to doing a thought download every single day. It's the daily art of leading. It's a daily thought download. It's what you do to reveal the different problems or struggles that you want to solve. And here are some different questions that you can ask yourself as you're walking through it. So for the next 5 to 10 minutes, I want you just to write down whatever is on your mind, completely unfiltered. And if you need to, give yourself the confidence of being able to know you can shred this after. It can remain 100% confidential. Now, if you don't know what to write down, I'm going to give you some question prompts. So this is what you can write down, and it'll reveal what are some of the different things in your mind. So it's things like, what do you wish was different? What is hurting or frustrating? What are you struggling with? What isn't working in your life? What are you worried about? What keeps you up at night? And finally, what doubts or concerns do you have about your goals or the future? And we coach leaders in their personal life all around the globe. Here's just a few examples of some of the different things that leaders have told us of their personal challenges, the different things that they wanted to get coached on. Things like, I suffer from anxiety. When I get really stressed or overwhelmed, I struggle to get out of bed, much less show up as a great leader. Or I want help stop procrastinating. I have big dreams that I don't execute. I want to turn them into reality. Or I want to become more confident. I struggle not feeling like my best is ever enough. Or when I get stressed out, I overeat. I put on a whole lot of unhealthy weight. Or my go-to is I overdrink. And one glass of wine at night to relax turns into many. I have a bad relationship with my dad. We don't even talk anymore. So you can see there's several different things that we can cover using the bear model on any situation or struggle that you want to help solve. It's the same thing on the leadership front. We've asked leaders, what are the top challenges or struggles you face as a leader at work? What keeps you up at night? And here are some of the examples. Getting people to follow my direction, to do what I say, providing candid feedback, mainly if it's not positive. I want to be a better coach. I naturally tell and direct. I want to better delegate. I want to deal with that problem employee. They just complain and it takes up a lot of my time with their drama. Or I want to better manage my time with all the competing priorities. How do I focus on what's most important? So now that we know the root cause of the problem, we're helping with the solution. You're the hero. Let us be your guide. So you can work with us at thedailyartofleading.com. We have a free podcast that you can sign up for on iTunes and follow, where we go through not only the bear model, but also all of those other leadership challenges. How do I get results with and through other people? How do I become the boss people want to work for? We also have a lot of free resources. So if you were to go to the website or go to our Instagram account at The Daily Art of Leading, you can get the latest list of all the different free resources. Things like discover your MBTI personality type in under 25 minutes, or learn the #1 most impactful leadership discipline, or 3 podcasts to immediately improve your relationship. Finally, you could sign up for the weekly free leadership tips and tools email that no more than once a week, we give you either a video or an email or a specific free tool to put into practice. The ones that we just barely released is we gave a freebie to all new managers. It was the top 9 tools to do your first 90 days. Things like creating a 30, 60, 90-day plan. What questions do you ask the different people in your company? How do you mentally transition into your new role? And many other different incredible tips and tools. I am excited to work with you. I believe you're about to change your life by seeing your bear and bearing up. We're excited to be on this journey with you. So until next time, bear up and go lead.